I got 6 o'clock to call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have one amendment, 8F, the resolution of 2021-11, acceptance of the American Rescue Plan apps dollars that will add to the agenda. Just need a motion to amend that.
Motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 4-0-0. Now I just need a adoption. I just need just review the minutes from June 3rd of 2021, regular meeting minutes.
Oops, sorry. Yes. There we go, I got it now.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 4-0-0. Oh, okay. Accounts payable. Yeah.
So, normal things other than 76064, which is for the water extension functions. Over time. For that. 30. And the other one, small, Marco, so from 662. Oh, yeah. That was for some Dr. the super staff, so the other stuff. There's no question there. I make motion to approve the accounts payable in the amount of $72,282.84.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 4-0-0. Thanks, Steve. Public comments. Individuals may address the city council about any item of concern. Speakers must state their names, limit the remarks to 5 minutes. Is there anybody here for public comments? I will close that portion of public comments. Let's jump down to 8A, audit review and approval. Is Kim or Mark? Mark, you got the stage.
How's everybody doing?
Good, how are you?
Well, it's been another eventful year. So it's not like it. I don't know. So it's been another eventful year. Once again, we've had obviously the coronavirus has kind of hurt the economy as well. And that has had an effect to a certain extent on the financial statements. As you notice here, we're doing a PowerPoint, which is my preferred method of doing presentation because I like for you to be able to see, of course, look at the same thing. And even since my being able to laser pointer won't work well on the screen, I'm going old school. When's the last time you saw one? Anyway, so basically, once again, we've done the audit as required by the state of Minnesota. We need to submit the report by the end of June. And we'll do that. And that goes to the state auditor. Go ahead. Basically, it takes 4 of us to do this. Myself, me and I got about 32 years of experience doing this. So it's been quite a while. Jennifer, who's been working quite a while, has 23 years of experience. And the other 2 are So it takes all of us to do this. And what do we do? Go to the next slide, please. So first of all, staff is very helpful, and they do a great job performing these kinds of functions. That's super important, because if I didn't say that, we'd have a much different audit. Because, as I've said before, audit is an art and science. You know, the science is getting the numbers, getting the reports, looking at the association of accounts, and so forth. The art of it is reading people. You know, and I have in-depth conversations with people every year. Do I get what I want when I want? And as I said before, I've uncovered fraud. It's not fun, but I've uncovered fraud. I've actually sat in front of the bureau of the BCA, they'll come on branches. Tell them how it's done. So it's not something I technically look for, but I'm always aware of. I'm always aware of the internal control environment and what's going on and what can be done. You've got a clean opinion. These financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted governmental accounting standards. And that's important as well. That's the highest form I can give as an unqualified opinion. And once again, they're done in accordance with governmental accounting standards and these financials in the GASB 34 format. GASB 34 has been around, it was implemented in about 2004. That was a substantial shift. I never liked the format. I don't see it as a value add, and it's a lot more work. But nevertheless, that's how we have to do it. Okay, next slide. Just a little bit about what we do. You know, you see this, you see the report, but there's a whole lot of effort that goes on underneath it. We look at the accounting system. We make suggestions for improvements. We confirm the cash investments with outside agencies. So I don't just take Kim's word for it. I go to the bank and I say, hey, what do you got? I do the same thing with collateral. We have collateral. We look at what I confirm with the state of Minnesota and the county. So we do outside tests as well. Some of our other tests, we look at the fixed asset additions. We buy a new snowplow, we go see it. Whatever it is, you know, we'll take an afternoon and go look at stuff during lunch, and you know, and everything we do is predicated upon our experiences in the past with fraud. One of the famous ones is a case in, I believe it was Russia, where you know they had this big plan, except there was just no money. The money was sacking off. So we always go through things with an air of pessimism, and that's just how we operate. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. And if you have questions, feel free to stop me. Or if I'm talking too fast, I was told I only have 4 minutes. I'm probably about 3 minutes over already. But, you know, hey, it is what it is. You go to the next slide. So basically, these financial statements, which we haven't really done a lot before, we talk about some of the content, but I think it's important that you understand what you get. You get 2 sets of financials. The first one's called the government-wide. We'll be looking at that next. Government-wide financials are presented on a full accrual basis. Accrual means, hey, if you earned it, we report it. If you owe it, we take it as something you owe. Standard governmental accounting is actually on what's called a modified accrual basis. A modified accrual basis says if you're going to get it or spend it within 60 days, we report it. And governmental method is a lot different. There's no fixed assets in a governmental fund, except for the water and sewer. You know, those fixed assets that's pretty different. But you put a new street in, it's an expense. But we can't do that for the top level finance. We have to back that out of the expense and turn around and say, hey, we're going to appreciate it. Okay? And I agree, the full accrual method is a better method. But it's not how governmental financials are done in the past. So I always have a little bit of an issue with that. And then we do the fund financial statements, which is traditionally how governmental funds are used. And everybody who works with governments knows how that works, so it's not a mystery. Now we've got the GASB 68 disclosure, which let me finish this. Which is that's a pension disclosure, what you would owe if PARA failed. But then, in my opinion, if PARA fails, we're kind of a walking dead scenario anyway. So I don't see it as really a meaningful number, but we're required to present it. So you do. And GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, is changing every year. They're doing updates every year to something. Some of them I agree with, some of them I don't, but we have to implement it because that's the type of financial we're doing. Okay, go to the next slide, please. Okay, this is a little fuzzy. If you want to look at page 4 of your financial, and James is going to help me get this cleared up. Right, James?
Well, it might be able to.
Oh, yeah, maybe a little more focused because I can't read it either from this distance.
Oh, you can't read that.
So this is actually called the government-wide financial. This is where you're at with on your balance sheet, the state of financial position, it's where you're at as of 12/31. It's not where you're at as of January 1st or December 30th. It's as of December 31st. That's important to note because a lot of these things can change. Some entities, you're approving accounts payable tonight. Well, okay, that number then is not going to be reflected on this. It will be reflected in the income statement what's happened through the year, but it's not going to show up here. And if you get into an in-depth ratio analysis, you can see the results. So basically what you'll see here, my fancy thing, you can see what you have is right there. That's the assets. That's what you have. Okay? And you can see here, we do have the capital assets. Capital assets are your land and buildings and so forth. You can see what you've got for those. Now, we've got the governmental activities. That's your general fund, your special revenue fund, your projects fund, and so forth. And those are presented in a different column than your water and sewer. I talked a little bit about water and sewer earlier. Water and sewer funds are called proprietary funds or enterprise funds. And those financials in governmental accounting standards are treated like a regular for-profit. So this is straight out of, the standards for that. So this looks just the same wherever it's at, which is, in my opinion, either do it all that way or do none of it. They don't exactly ask my opinion. If we go down a little bit further, you can see, first of all, it's called deferred outflows of pension activities. And if you want to go put the liabilities up here, please. So this is what you owe. You've got deferred outflows of resources, deferred inflows of resources, and your pension liability. So in theory, the sum of those, this plus this minus that, would be what you would owe if para full. Once again, we have to show the number, but I don't want to see the value add, but it's important for you to know it. So here's what you owe. You've got 27 million of assets. You've got a little over, 2 million, 2.3 million of, I have hearing aids and I phone the right my hearing aids, and the kid just called me, so it means I did nothing else. I apologize for that. So basically, this is what you owe. Well, you see you have a substantial difference here. What's left over, the 25 million there, is your equity, okay, or your net assets, or your retained earnings, depending whether it's a for-profit, nonprofit, or governmental entity. So that basically, you got that. Can you spend it? No. Because you can see you have 17 million of, roads and stuff like that. So it's not spendable, it's not all spendable, but that's where you're at. So this is the GASB 34 method of your financial. So now if you want to go to the next slide. The next slide is what has been traditionally used before 2004 for the, and these are fund financials. This is, with the fund financials, we do these are discretely presented major funds. So on the left is your general fund, which is kind of the catch-all. You've got the library, East Avenue, improvements, couple of capital projects, debt service. And then this column here is actually everything else. And I showed that much later in the financial, back at page 35 or 45, something like that. So this is how the financials used to be done, basically. And to me, this is a useful format. This is
good for analytical purposes. You can see you've got a lot of assets in your general fund, half of them in the other funds, and you can see a total there. So to me, this is a little bit more useful than, that's in page 48. So that's that. Questions so far? All right, now basically then, let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So one of the things I like to do is, can you look at this in a little bit different method, okay? Where's your money coming from? This is revenue. Where's your money coming from? Well, 50% of your taxes are coming from, or of your revenue is coming from taxes. Okay? And what does that mean? That means you're dependent on taxes. Okay, taxes, you can self-generate, you'll raise the levy and so forth, so it's something you control to a certain extent, but there's where a majority of your income is coming from. It was actually 55% last year, it's down to 49% this year. And when I say this year, I mean 2020. I'm still doing 20. So that's that. Your next biggest is the intergovernmental, which is kind of the grayish. And intergovernmental this year was actually 31% of your budget, had more intergovernmental. How does that? All the stuff with the PPP and so forth and so on. So intergovernmental is coming from the state of Minnesota, from the federal grants and so forth. One thing about federal grants to be aware of is, and if you run into it, you want to give me a call because you don't want to run into what's called a single audit situation. If you don't have to, which means I got to be nice. So this is your revenue. So most of your money is coming from taxes. And the next biggest is your intergovernmental. And if you want to go to the next slide, please. So these are the expenditures. So you can see this is a little bit more diversified. You've got a little bit more going on in this than you do the revenue. You've got a couple main sources of revenues, but you're spreading it out quite a bit. And here your biggest is actually public safety, 31%. And then after that, you've got public works has actually decreased a fair amount this year, went from 37% to 15%, which I find interesting. So that's the expenditures. Once again, you've got a major revenue source of the property taxes and so forth, and you've diversified the expenditure stream, which I think is good. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Am I over my 4 minutes? Okay, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. All right. This is analysis that I've done every year. And this is really, once again, one of my favorite analysis. Because this breaks down where you're spending your money. Where are you spending your money? Where are you getting your money? How do you compare to others? And all these come from, this is all 2019 info from the state army. And to me, it's very, very useful information. Your principal payments. You have the lowest principal payments of these entities. Now, state auditor does parse this out, so I can tell you where you stand within the whole state, but I don't have that information in hand. But Tim and I can certainly look at it. For total expenditures within these cities, you can see you've got 3 others that are higher. Lake City, Pine Island, and Cannon Falls all have a higher level of per capita. So per capita per person. You've got a lower total expenditure, so you're being conservative with your money. If we look at your revenues, okay, you can see your property taxes. Your property taxes are the lowest of all these, $557 per person. Okay, of all these cities, compared to Cannon Falls, Bisbee, Lake City, or Pine Island. And you are in overall revenue, you're 4th. Lake City has higher revenues, Cannon Falls has higher revenues, Pine Island has higher revenues compared to you. So your overall revenues are good, and your property tax, you're not getting overtaxed by property tax. You know what I mean? Compared to some of the other cities or so forth are going to be spending more money or getting more money by property tax, whereas you diversify that revenue stream to a certain extent. So what does this tell me? Well, your capital expenditures, you've got 2 cities with higher capital expenditures than you, capital outlay. I like it. What does that tell me? That tells me that you are sidewalks done, doing the road repair, seal coating and so forth. So that's good. Combine that with the relatively low principal payment means you're in a very good debt structured situation. Now, I know you're going to be bonding, but that's, this is still very, very good, because I've seen some cities that have huge principal payments and no capital out. And what that tells me is you're going to end up in a situation where in X number of years, you're going to have to lay out an enormous amount of money because you have to take care of your streets. So, and there's all sorts of things you can measure by from the state audit. These are the factors that I like to look at. But there's a lot of information from the state auditor. And there you go. Okay, next slide. In the back of your financial statement, you have two letters. One letter says, right here, lack of control of design and implementation of the accounting process. Okay? This is, it's called a significant deficiency letter. Because you don't have, you've got Kim, okay? And so you've got inherently and Kim does a really good job, but you've got a segregation of duties issue. It's going to happen. Virtually all of my clients have segregation of duties issue. That means the separation of like the ability to work on the accounting system and cash a check. Okay, so that's where the accounts payable comes in. That's where accounts payable is so critical. And your budget to actual. Look at your budget to actual. Make sure you're comparing that. And if there's significant deficiencies or changes, okay, let's look at it. Wait a minute. I have a budget like this for the water and sewer fund. What happened? Okay, so that's where that is so important. Now, if you have, and that's one of the biggest frauds in history was federal government. Their capital always came in. Sorry, she really wants to talk to me. Well, it is on the answer. She probably wants to show me something. So basically, it was a situation where the travel budget was never open. Because if somebody underreported their expenses, hey, I can go $20 the person took the rest of the money, so they're always on budget. So I always look for a budget there, and that's fine. As long as you're aware of them as a council. Well, this is over. Why? This is under. Why? The budget with the vote and so forth. There's differences. So that's the other thing. So between looking at accounts payable, making sure the check signing, doing the two signers, which we've worked through some issues with that in the past, those are all critical internal control things that help mitigate the segregation of duties. That's why that's so important. The other is called the governance letter. That would be this one. Significant audit findings. That basically tells you, the council, that I did not get in an argument with Brian and Kim. Of course, if I had, you guys would know about it before. But that's how it's surprising to you guys. And that is it. Questions?
Great job.
Was that much more dynamic?
Always is.
Any questions for Mark?
Oh, yeah, such a good job there.
He does. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your.
I enjoyed working with you here. And one thing I emphasize with the team is, especially with when we talk, let's talk. Let's not do it as an audit. Let's talk now, and we might talk occasionally, but if there's something, let's talk about it. I mean, this is not an adversarial type thing. I'm going to do it right, but if I can help, I want to help. So maybe my life is good. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Have a great night.
So I believe we need a motion to approve the audit.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 4-0-0. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to 8B, lift station, well, retrofit. Month.
Have a lift station. North side of the highway up there. Yeah, that's one lift station. That's in the lift station we have. 1978, we just have to redo it.
We sold for $36,000.
Go on a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, wait, I don't know what you're.
All in favor? Opposed? Passes 4-0-0. Thanks, Mike. 8C, tree removal. Mike.
We set up at the park, soft vehicles again. Got four, just to drop them in pretty much.
Number 9.
All this and then we take them stuff. They do the old soft vehicles.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 4-0-0. Thanks again, Mike. 8D, variance request of 700 Gulfview Avenue. Dylan.
Yeah, so Tina last month submitted an application for a variance for 700 Gulfview Avenue. The variance stems from, but simply uniqueness of the lot. It's small. It's a small lot. It gets skinny and it's kind of triangular in shape. The variance stems from pushing into the back rear yard setbacks, 14 feet. We took it to planning and zoning and we had a public hearing already, and the planning commission recommends approval of the variance due to the findings in fact. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay.
Not about the
Variance?
variance. Correct.
Well, it's not a buildable lot, but it's approved to do when the development was started. That's my question.
I have the same question. I think it's one of those things where when this is an assumption, dealing with the development on such a large scale, there's going to be pieces that need to fit with what else you're going to do with it. That's just an assumption. This is before my time, Brian's time, whether something is like this, they took the 99% build with the 100% back.
Or is it buildable, but,
Correct.
It meets the square footage requirements.
It does.
It just doesn't fit the setbacks side yard because of the shape of the sole thing. You could build on it and be very small, if that.
But it just, that is true in this case, the back is a hill, but it is a hill, so there's really a thing that's a separate approach on anything.
So we need a motion to approve the variance request for 700. Any further discussion?
Variance lasts 12 months. So that's the project within a year. Contingency.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 3-0. Thanks, Doug. 8E, reschedule August meeting to Wednesday, August 4th for discussion. Zimba is having a Ziba. I always say Zimba. Zimba is having a Ziba. What is it? Ziba. I'm having a block party, blocking off East Third to roughly the bank from 4 to 7, and I would just kind of see if council, mayor, city staff can attend that. So we can either change it to August 4th, if it works with the schedule. We could change the time to maybe 7 o'clock. On the 5th, so we could go, so I think the block party is 4 to 7, but the 4 to 8. Or we can just leave it for just, discussion.
So do we have one meeting in July?
Yeah, that's no one, July 8th, for Brian.
We don't have a.
So,
Yeah, we really want to move this one of August a week because we're already, we thought possibly debating for, or they're able to move it to 7 o'clock. Okay.
we're gonna approve a lot of music,
What time is that?
4 to 7. I'm okay with it. I mean, I don't know what you guys are saying, but just do a motion to change the August meeting from the 5th to the 4th, same time. Any further discussion? We will change the meeting, August 5th to Wednesday, August 4th at 6 o'clock. All in favor? Opposed, passes 4-0-0. 8F, resolution of 2021-11, acceptance of American Rescue Plan Act.
Yes, we're ready to start sending hours out. We have to apply for those hours. It's numbers we have to put in there in order to get the hours. They are still calculating the total hours that we will receive. So so this resolution is just to authorize city staff to make application to receive the hours. And then we'll have to do another resolution once the defined hour limits. So this whole, which it should be in the neighborhood of 300 for years. But this resolution is just simply to authorize when I got Kim Powell, she's going to do the report. Request approval. The resolution.
I'll make that motion to approve that resolution.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed, passes 4-0-0. Thanks, Brian. Reports, Brian.
Well, looking good. Looks good to me. I'm like, do his update on it. Push. But it should look. Working on security cameras still, working on getting the recycling back down there. Got some ideas. I've got 3 quotes now. I'm working on the 4th one. Once I have that, I'll put everything in the spreadsheet. Quotes, cameras, make sure that that was apples, and the technology community. Move forward. We're inching closer to. I'll work with Isaac. As well.
learned that next month's meeting is July.
Thanks, Martin. Matt? Chief?
Just a reminder that National Night Out is August 3rd. So that'll be the first Tuesday in August. And Shannon is getting prepared. So I think we're just, we're talking to the fire department about all of that as a whole location again. So that's underway.
Thanks, Chief. Dylan?
Yeah, an EDA update is the EDA meetings will be moving from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. going forward. This then, just from the conversation, to more appropriately address, consider people's schedules. We had 2 pending resignations. They will not be resigning now with the change in schedule. So for the foreseeable future, 5:30, still the third Wednesdays of each month, 5:30 p.m. instead of 7. Starting next month, correct. Another one that Sarah might be able to talk about, but there's a new business opening in town tomorrow. Talk about that.
Okay. Mr. Olson?
I mentioned that Brad Thatcher's done quite a bit of work up in the pool this year, so we got it filled and got it running. The last thing he's got is Friday, he's going to be removing the diving boards and putting schedule for opening Monday. Perfect temperatures in the 60s. So that's all I have. I want to one more thing, I found big, huge thanks to Mike for his, Mike, especially, he's been, I've seen all these people that, well.
Everybody's saying.
Yeah, so appreciate all the effort.
Thanks, man. I have nothing. There. Meeting adjourned.
I didn't steal the code. No. Why would I send those codes when I'm not legal?
Well, it's info, right?
Yes.
So excited.
I'm so mad. There's no way. I made that so much. Stole it all. They told Brian.
Yeah.
Never, the students, the guys didn't want, they wanted us to keep them. Yeah, so never, the city got them to read, and they tried to pick them up one time. They got them to read, so it cost me, but I did that. I think it's like, oh. Somebody picked them up. Yeah, I told them, in their basement, I was hauling all 20 some of them downstairs, and I wasn't down there anymore. So actually that week, that after that I drove by, it was like, I don't know, like they thought I was. So I picked those up and took them to the bar, and I moved them to the hospital. But no, false. No, they got them. Yeah. I was shooting them for all these years. And
I chuckled when they said she wasn't.
they were given to us by the city. And it's not like all days, it's like, oh.
Your story. What's the name?
The ball.
Oh. You got it all set up.
Magic. It's got all that. A whole bunch of things like that.
Do they have spots for people who are sitting play games or something, really? Drinks or, I mean, what I
Well,
see.
that's not-
Candy.
I don't, this is the grand opening opening, so he doesn't have it totally how he wants. People are begging him.
How's the restaurant?
Yes, he was driving tomorrow.
Once the game started?
Oh.
Opening started?
Don't know how long. No. It's probably a month. I don't know how long. Stay tuned.
Oh.
That might be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Really? No.
Our architect had, so it's just been, just the bathroom. Yeah, or John, I don't know.
I wonder if you'll come here.
Just, I think that it's been for years, because he would have, like, spent all this money doing that right away that we should, that it was in the and the other building. Yeah.
I didn't bring my car,
I think I can see it. now.
even like there's